I thought rooming with Alex during our college trip to Egypt would be a nightmare. He was loud, cocky, and the exact type of guy I usually avoided. But one night, while I was half asleep, he did something I never saw coming. He touched me. Gently. Deliberately. And the strangest part? I didn't stop him. What happened next completely changed how I saw him, and how I saw myself. When our college announced the international trip to Egypt, everyone else was thrilled. Me? Not so much. It wasn't the destination. I'd always dreamed of seeing the pyramids, the Nile, the ancient temples. It was the roommate situation that killed the vibe. I had a sinking feeling I'd be stuck with Alex. And of course, I was right. Alex Owens, tall, athletic, smooth-talking. He was the kind of guy everyone noticed. Girls flirted with him. Guys wanted to be him. Even professors seemed to bend over backward when he smiled. Black, beautiful, and built like a god, Alex didn't just visit the gym, he owned it. And I was the opposite. Quiet, focused, the type who stayed invisible in a crowd. So naturally, our professor paired us together. Opposites foster growth, she said, like this was a team-building exercise. I wanted to protest. Had she ever spent 5 minutes alone with Alex Owens? But I stayed silent and nodded, pretending it was fine. Our hostel room in Cairo was tiny. 2 beds, 1 wooden desk, and a narrow window that overlooked a surprisingly beautiful skyline. At dusk, the call to prayer echoed through the air like music, and the city smelled of spices and old stone. It should have felt magical, peaceful. But all I could think was, how was I going to survive a week living with Alex? The second we got in, he dropped onto his bed like he owned the place. "So," he said with a smirk, "are we doing the silent treatment all week, or are we going to be cool?" I avoided his eyes, pretending his half-lifted shirt and flexed biceps weren't distracting me. "Let's just get through this without killing each other," he grinned. "Deal. Though for the record, I'm delighted." I rolled my eyes. Typical. The first few days passed in a blur. Heat, sand, ancient ruins. We visited Giza, wandered Cairo, even hiked out to forgotten tombs. I tried to keep my distance, but Alex was everywhere. Cracking jokes, charming locals, spouting facts about Egypt like he'd studied for years. It was annoying, but also kind of impressive. He wasn't just a clown. He was smart, thoughtful even. He asked deep questions during tours that made me pause. People gravitated toward him. And, to my dismay, I started to understand why. But I still kept my guard up. He was being a decent roommate. Quiet, clean, even thoughtful enough to bring me snacks. But it didn't make sense. Guys like him didn't usually pay attention to guys like me. Unless they were planning a prank. Except Alex kept watching me. Not in a creepy way, but in a quiet, curious way. Like he was trying to understand something about me. Sometimes I'd catch him staring when he thought I wasn't looking, and every time I did, my chest would get tight, my skin warm. It made it harder to fall asleep. By the 3rd night, I was beyond tired. The hike through temple ruins had drained me. I showered, slipped into a loose shirt and boxers, and collapsed into bed facing the wall. Alex was still up, laughing quietly with headphones in as he scrolled through his phone. I closed my eyes. Slowly, sleep started to pull me under. But sometime in the middle of the night, I stirred. The air in the room felt heavier, warmer. And then, I felt him. Not just his presence. I felt Alex. He was close. Too close. I didn't open my eyes. Part of me wasn't sure I wanted to. Then I heard him whisper something. His voice low, impossible to understand. And then I felt his hand brush my arm. My breath caught. I froze. Was I dreaming? No. The touch lingered. Software intentional. Gentle. He didn't speak again. He just let his fingers rest there, warm and still. Then, slowly, he pulled away. I stayed still. My heart thundering, my mind spinning. Did he think I was asleep? Was he testing me? Did he want me to react? I didn't move. I couldn't. Partly because I was afraid of what might happen if I did. And partly because, Deep down, I didn't want him to stop. Eventually, I heard the faint shift of fabric, his body turning over in bed. The springs creaked softly as he settled in again. I stayed awake long after that, eyes wide, breathing shallow. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Alex rummaging through his backpack, humming some song under his breath like nothing had happened. When he noticed I was awake, he glanced over. "Big day today," he said casually, flashing that same familiar smirk. "Valley of the Kings, hope you brought good shoes." "Yeah," I said, my voice rough and scratchy. He turned back to his bag, still humming. Just like that, it was as if the night before had never happened. But I knew better. Because that touch? It wasn't nothing. And deep down, I knew it was only the beginning. I couldn't stop thinking about it all morning. While the group loaded onto the bus, while our professor handed out printed itineraries, my thoughts kept circling back to that quiet moment in the dark. Alex's hand, that whisper I couldn't quite catch, the warmth of his touch that still tingled on my skin hours later. It was real. I hadn't imagined it. He touched me gently, like he was asking a question he didn't know how to say out loud. But if that was true, then why was he acting like everything was normal? He laughed with the guys in the back of the bus, tossed a protein bar to one of the girls, wore his sunglasses and a tank top like he hadn't just crossed the room in the middle of the night to touch me while I was sleeping. I watched him from the corner of my eye as I sank lower in my seat. At one point, he caught me staring. Just once. And for the briefest moment, his lips twitched, like he wanted to say something. But he didn't. He just turned back to the group, like I wasn't quietly falling apart 5 feet away. The ride to Luxor was long, hot, and bumpy. People dozed off against the windows or chatted softly. Me? I couldn't relax. My brain replayed every detail from the night before, over and over. Every rustle of the sheets, every pause in his breath. Was it curiosity? A mistake? Or something more? At one point, Alex leaned toward me and lowered his sunglasses. "You're awfully quiet today," he said, voice low. "Just for me." I glanced at him, trying to stay neutral. "Just tired." He tilted his head, studying me a second longer than he needed to, then leaned back into his seat and said nothing else for the rest of the ride. The day passed in a haze. Dust, heat, and stone walls that had stood for thousands of years. I should have been in awe. The Valley of the Kings was breathtaking. Ancient tombs, faded paint, secrets carved into rock. But I was distracted. Alex stayed close. Not in an obvious way, but always nearby. He asked smart questions, scribbled notes in our guidebook, sometimes bumped his shoulder into mine like it meant nothing. But I noticed the subtle shifts. He didn't crack as many jokes. His hand brushed against mine when we passed a water bottle. And when I wasn't looking directly at him, I could feel his eyes lingering. Was he testing me, or scared I'd bring it up? And honestly, what would I even say? "Hey, Alex, did you sneak out of bed and touch me while I was sleeping?" "Yeah, that would go great." By the time we got back to the hotel, I was fried. My skin burned from the sun, and my thoughts felt like they were melting. I didn't even wait to shower. Just peeled off my shirt and collapsed face down on the bed, still in my dusty cargo shorts and socks. I wanted sleep, silence, a break from my own mind. Alex came in a few minutes later, the rustle of plastic bags as he dumped snacks on the desk. "You good?" he asked. I gave a thumbs up, my face still buried in the pillow. He chuckled, a soft sound, almost gentle. "You really don't talk much, do you?" "Not unless I've got something worth saying." He didn't reply right away. Then I heard him sit on the edge of his bed. "You ever think maybe people want to hear what you have to say anyway?" That made me pause. I rolled over just enough to look at him. He wasn't facing me. He was staring up at the ceiling, arms behind his head, lost in thought. "You ever think," he added, "that maybe you're more interesting than you let yourself be?" My chest tightened. Was this about me being quiet? Or was this about last night? He slowly turned his head, eyes meeting mine across the narrow space between our beds. "Maybe both," he said. Something shifted in the air. He wasn't smiling, not the usual cocky grin. His eyes were serious, not intense, just open. Like he was offering me a chance to finally say something I'd been swallowing for far too long. I didn't. I couldn't. Later that night, we got ready for bed in silence. He brushed his teeth. I pretended to read a book I wasn't really absorbing. When the lights went out, the silence grew louder. The sound of our breathing filled the room. His bed creaked slightly as he shifted. Mine didn't. I stayed still, listening, waiting. I don't know how long I lay there, half asleep, half aware. But I knew the exact moment he got up. The soft rustle of sheets, the sound of bare feet against cool tile, the hesitation in the air. I kept my eyes shut. There was a pause. Then the faint whisper of fabric as he crouched beside my bed. My heart pounded in my chest. He didn't speak. He didn't touch me. But I felt him, so close I could hear the faint hitch in his breath, smell the warmth of sun-soaked skin and cheap hostile soap. I waited, frozen. Then slowly, deliberately, his fingers brushed against my leg, just below the hem of my shorts. I didn't move. I should have. But I didn't. And I think that was the beginning of everything. Because I waited for him. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. My legs were tangled in the sheets, my skin still warm where his fingers had ghosted over my thigh. My heart had been pounding too hard to rest, not out of fear, but something stranger, something I didn't yet have a name for. I hadn't opened my eyes when he touched me. I hadn't spoken. I hadn't stopped him. Why? That question looped in my head like a broken song. When I finally sat up, Alex was already dressed, sitting on the edge of his bed with a bag of trail mix in one hand and earbuds in his ears. He glanced up, gave me a nod. No words. No sign of the night before on his face. "You sleep all right?" he asked casually, popping a few almonds into his mouth. I hesitated. "Yeah." "You were out cold," he said, grinning. "Didn't even hear you snore." I forced a laugh, but my stomach twisted. He was pretending again. Or maybe I was the one pretending. Pretending I hadn't laid there frozen while he crossed a line neither of us had the words to talk about. We joined the group downstairs for breakfast. The usual buzz filled the air. Someone raving about the night market. Someone else arguing over which pyramid was more impressive. I kept my head down, poking at a half-toasted piece of pita. Alex, across from me, laughed with one of the guys. But even while he laughed, he kept glancing at me. Quick, careful looks. Like he was checking if I was still there, or if I was still okay. Was he waiting for me to bring it up? Or was he hoping I never would? The bus took us to Karnak Temple that day. Massive. Grand. The kind of place that made you feel small and irrelevant. Giant stone columns rose like ancient trees, etched with faded prayers and the dust of empires. I tried to focus on the guide's words, but my thoughts kept drifting. Back to the touch. Back to the silence. Back to the way his fingers had hovered. Unsure but curious. When we paused for water, I felt him step beside me. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said quickly, not meeting his eyes. "You've been quiet." I shrugged. "I'm always quiet." He didn't answer right away. Then softly he said, "You don't have to be, you know." He looked at me. Not with me. I looked up, startled. His eyes weren't teasing. They were soft. "Sincerely. I mean it," he added. "You don't always have to play invisible." I didn't know how to respond. That afternoon, our group took a short boat ride along the Nile. The water shimmered under the sun. Palm trees lined the banks in lush waves of green. The wind was warm, but it felt good against my skin. Alex and I ended up side by side again. Not that I had much choice. Everyone had paired off. At first, we didn't talk. He leaned back, one leg stretched out, eyes closed like he was perfectly at peace. I sat rigid, hands folded between my knees. "You're quiet again," he said after a while, eyes still closed. "Just taking it all in," I muttered. He finally turned to look at me. "You're not mad, are you?" My heart thudded. Why would I be mad? He hesitated. "I don't know, I don't want to make you uncomfortable." The words hung between us, heavy, real. "I'm not uncomfortable," I said, maybe too quickly. "Just figuring things out." He nodded slowly, then leaned back again, letting it go. The boat hit a soft wave. I stumbled slightly. Instinctively, I reached out, and my hand landed on Alex's thigh. It wasn't intentional, barely a second. But the contact felt like electricity through my entire body. I yanked my hand back. "Sorry." "It's okay," he said, voice calm. I looked at him. He was watching me. No smirk, no teasing, just watching. We didn't speak for the rest of the ride. That night back at the hostel, the atmosphere felt different, quieter. Still Alex, but subdued. We both showered and changed, moving around each other with an awkward rhythm. The unspoken tension between us had grown too heavy to ignore. I sat on my bed, scrolling my phone, pretending not to notice how he kept glancing over at me between swipes on his own screen. At some point, he set his phone down. "You ever wonder what comes next?" he asked. I looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "After college," he said. "Who we'll still talk to? Who'll forget?" I shrugged. "I guess I haven't thought that far." He nodded. "I think about it a lot. Like, what if all of this is temporary? What if the people we connect with here, we never see them again?" He sounded distant. Sad even. It was the most honest he'd sounded all trip. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Alex hesitated, then looked directly at me. "Because I think I'm starting to care about what happens with you." The room went still. My breath caught. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but part of me already knew. "You don't even know me," I whispered. "I know enough," he said. "Enough to see you're not like everyone else. Enough to notice you never let anyone get close. And enough to wish I didn't know what to say, so I didn't." He nodded once, then turned off the light, and climbed into bed. In the dark, neither of us spoke. But something had changed, and we both felt it. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart racing. His words echoed in my mind. Was he really seeing me? Or was I finally seeing him? Either way, I knew, deep down, that this wasn't the end of it. The air between us had shifted. It wasn't tense, just quieter. Like something was waiting to be said. And neither of us knew how to start. Alex wasn't joking around as much during the group tours anymore. His charm was still there. But the spark, the playful light in his eyes, had dimmed. He didn't casually brush against me anymore, didn't nudge my arm or flash that sideways grin. But he still watched me when he thought I wasn't looking. He still sat close on the bus, even if we didn't talk. And me? I felt everything. Every glance. Every silence. Every inch of space between our beds felt smaller with each passing night. I kept thinking about what he'd said the night before. "I think I'm starting to care about what happens with you." He hadn't said it like a pickup line. He'd said it like truth. And maybe that's what scared me the most, because I didn't know what to do with truths like that. That night, after a long group dinner, filled with spicy lentil soup and sticky sweet pastries we ate too fast, Alex and I walked back to the hostel in silence. The others trailed behind, laughing at something one of the girls had said. But we were in our own orbit, quiet, charged, waiting. Back in the room, I went straight to my bed. I pulled out a book, more to hide behind it than to actually read. Alex sat on his bed, scrolling through his phone, the soft glow lighting up the curve of his cheekbone. And we stayed like that for a long time, saying nothing, doing nothing. just breathing the same thick, shared air. Eventually, he set his phone down. "You're really into that book, huh?" he said, his voice breaking the silence like a ripple on still water. I didn't look up. "It's decent." He leaned back, arms behind his head, eyes on the ceiling. "You always have an escape plan, don't you?" I paused. What's that supposed to mean? Books, headphones, distractions. You use them like armor, to keep people out. His words stung. Not because they were cruel, but because they were right. "You don't know me," I said quietly. "I'm trying to," he said. I looked up. He was watching me. Serious. Unblinking. "Why?" I asked. Alex shifted forward on the bed, resting his elbows on his knees. "Because I see you, James. Even if you don't want me to." I froze, unsure what to do with that. What did he mean? See me. "You act like nothing gets to you," he continued. "Like you don't care. But I don't buy it. Not for a second. You care too much. You just don't want anyone to know." I swallowed, my voice barely a whisper. "Why do you care?" He hesitated. Then he said it. Software simple, but unshakable. "Because I think I like you." The words hit like a wave, not violent, not loud, just overwhelming. I blinked. "What?" "I mean it," he said. "I've been trying to say it for days, but I didn't know how. I didn't know if you'd hear me." And just like that, every moment came rushing back, his hand on my arm, the whisper in the dark, the way he looked at me, like I was something he hadn't planned on wanting, but couldn't let go of either. I'd told myself I was imagining it, that he was just playing around, but now I wasn't sure anymore. "I don't know what to say," I admitted, my voice thin. "You don't have to say anything," he replied. He stood, slowly walking to the center of the room. "I just needed you to know." Then, without another word, he turned off the lights, got into bed, and left me alone in the dark, with his confession hanging in the air like heat from the Egyptian sun. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there for hours, wide-eyed, tangled in my thoughts. He liked me. Alex Owens. The same guy I couldn't stand sharing a room with days ago. The same guy who had felt untouchable, unreachable. He liked me. And not in some passing way. Not as a joke. He meant it. And the worst part? I didn't hate the idea. I didn't hate the memory of his hand on my thigh. I didn't hate the way he touched me. Like I was something fragile, like I was worth being careful with. I didn't hate the way my chest tightened when he looked at me. Didn't hate how my skin still burned from every small contact. Was I scared? Absolutely. But I wasn't disgusted. I wasn't confused in the way I thought I'd be. It was something else. Something deeper. Curiosity, maybe. Need. Maybe even the beginning of want. The next morning, the mood was quiet again. We didn't speak much as we got dressed. He didn't bring up what he'd said, and I didn't ask. As we boarded the bus to visit Karnak Temple, Alex stayed close. He didn't touch me, but I felt him. Every breath, every movement, every glance. As the guide spoke about the temple's history, Alex leaned in close and murmured, "You okay?" I nodded, not trusting myself to meet his eyes. "I'm fine." He sighed, like he wanted to say more, but didn't. That night, I knew I couldn't avoid it anymore. When we got back to the room, I sat on the edge of my bed. My heart was pounding. Alex dropped his bag and stretched, yawning. And I said it. "Let's talk." He stopped mid-stretch and slowly lowered his arms. "Okay." I took a breath. "Why now, Alex? Why say all this here?" He rubbed the back of his neck, looking exhausted. "Because I couldn't keep pretending. I thought, if I stayed quiet, it'd go away. But being here with you, it made everything clearer." "Clearer how?" I asked. He looked right at me, right into me. And he said it. "That I don't just like you, James. I think I'm falling for you." I didn't know how to respond when he said it. that he was falling for me. The words sat between us, thick and heavy, waiting to be unpacked. I sat frozen at the edge of the bed, while Alex stood across the room, quiet sincerity in his eyes. He wasn't rushing me. He wasn't pushing for a reaction. He just waited. "I don't know what to say," I finally whispered. Alex nodded like he'd expected that. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said gently. "I just needed you to know. That's all." He didn't look hurt. If anything, he looked relieved, like letting the truth out had taken a weight off his chest. I wanted to say something. I wanted to bridge the space between us, but the words caught in my throat. My mind was still scrambling to understand how my world had tilted overnight. He flicked off the lights without another word and climbed into bed. The room went dark, but the silence wasn't empty. It buzzed, full of meaning, full of everything we'd left unsaid. I lay on my back, staring into the dark, every nerve on edge. I wasn't confused, not like before. I didn't feel panicked or ashamed. What I felt was awareness, like my body had become a tuning fork, vibrating with something quiet but powerful. I was aware of Alex's breathing, of the heat in the room, of the shape of his body in the bed across from mine. He was awake. So was I, and we both knew it. I don't know how long I stayed there, eyes open, unmoving. But I heard him shift eventually, the faint rustle of his blanket, the creak of the floor, a presence approaching. Then, the mattress dipped beside me. I didn't flinch. I didn't open my eyes. I felt his warmth before I felt his hand, landing gently on my stomach, over the blanket. Just resting there, not pushing, not taking, waiting. I didn't stop him. His fingers moved slowly, sliding beneath the blanket, beneath the hem of my shirt. His palm met my skin, warm and curious. He didn't grope or grab. He explored, brushed lightly across my stomach, tracing the faint line of hair that led downward. Still, I didn't move. My chest rose and fell a little faster, but I stayed still. Eyes shut, lips parted. Alex's hand slid lower, hovering just above the waistband of my shorts. I could hear his breathing shift. I knew he was giving me a chance to say no, but I didn't. My body betrayed me. I grew hard beneath his touch, and I knew he noticed. His hand paused. Then it moved again, fingers grazing the line of my thigh, slipping slightly beneath the waistband. I shifted, toward him, not away. That was all he needed. I felt him lean closer, his breath warm against my cheek. My skin was on fire, not from the heat outside, but from the tension sparking between us. His hand stayed steady, still gentle. He wasn't taking. He was waiting, for me to let him in. I opened my eyes slowly and found him watching me. Neither of us spoke. The look in his eyes asked me again, silently, "Are you sure?" I didn't need words. I leaned in and kissed him. It started soft, a brush of lips. But when I didn't pull away, he deepened it. One hand slid behind my head, the other still resting against my bare skin. I kissed him back, hungrily now. Like I was making up for every time I told myself he couldn't possibly mean it. For every time I doubted the way he looked at me. His body pressed closer, our legs tangled. I let him pull me in, let him explore me further. My hands slipped beneath his shirt, fingers trailing along his back. The kiss turned fevered, messy, full of breath and need, but never rushed. He moved like he had all night to discover me. And I let him. We didn't go all the way. We didn't have to. Just kissing him, touching him, feeling his mouth on mine while his hands claimed parts of me no one else ever had. That was enough. He stayed in my bed afterward, lying beside me with one arm across my chest. My own hand rested over his, grounding both of us in the silence that followed. I ran my fingers slowly across the inside of his wrist, memorizing the shape of his hand, the curve of his shoulder pressed into mine. "You okay?" he whispered after a long pause. I nodded. Yeah. Another beat of silence. Then he said, I didn't want to push you. I couldn't hold it in anymore. You didn't push me, I whispered. His hand tightened slightly against my chest. I liked it, I added, my voice barely audible. He exhaled. I felt the relief in him as clearly as I felt the rise and fall of his breath. He didn't say anything else. Neither did I. We didn't need to. I fell asleep with his arm around me, the scent of him on my pillow, his breath warm against the side of my neck. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of what I was feeling. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. The morning after. The next morning didn't feel like a dream. It felt real. His body beside mine, his arm draped across my stomach, our legs still tangled beneath the thin sheets. The early Cairo sunlight bled through the gaps in the curtain, casting warm gold across the room. I stayed still, staring at the ceiling, heart steady, but full. I could feel Alex breathing beside me, chest rising and falling in a calm rhythm. He didn't move right away. Neither did I. When he finally stirred, it wasn't abrupt. His hand slid back slowly, brushing across my skin as he rolled onto his side to face me. I turned too, eyes meeting his in the quiet stillness of that shared moment. Hey, he said, voice raspy with sleep. Hey, I whispered back. He looked nervous, subtle, but there. The way his fingers fidgeted near the edge of the pillow. The way his gaze stayed too steady, like he didn't know if I regretted it. Like he didn't know if I'd say it meant nothing. But I didn't want to lie. Not this time. I'm glad you stayed, I said softly. His breath caught, just a little, and I saw his shoulders ease. Me too. We lay there for a while, not touching, not kissing, just existing, in the soft, unfamiliar peace of something new. It felt like the edges of my world had been smoothed overnight. There was still fear. But also, for the first time, there was hope. But it didn't sit on my chest like it used to. The fear, the confusion, it had softened. Something inside me had shifted. Eventually we got up. We dressed. We packed. No one in the group knew anything. But I caught Alex stealing glances at me during breakfast. Soft ones. Like quiet reminders that the night before wasn't an accident. That it wasn't just physical. That it mattered. On the bus ride back to the airport, he sat beside me. He didn't reach for my hand. Didn't lean his head on my shoulder. But our knees touched, and neither of us moved. That alone said enough. I meant what I said, he murmured, as the city blurred past the window. That night, I wasn't just caught up in the trip, I meant it. I turned to him. That you're falling for me? He nodded, eyes locked on mine. Yeah, and I don't expect you to feel the same. Not all at once, I just need you to know. I'm not taking any of this lightly. My chest tightened, but not in the bad way. In the way that told me he was telling the truth. That something real was beginning. I hesitated, then said, I don't know what comes next. But I want to figure it out. With you. That was the moment everything changed. Back home, things didn't return to normal. Not completely. At school, we weren't announcing anything. No sudden declarations in the hallway. No big displays. But Alex texted me every night. We started hanging out more. He'd show up outside my classes just to walk me back to the dorm. Some days we ate in silence. Other days we talked until the cafe lights dimmed and chairs were stacked on tables. He never pushed. Never asked for more than I could give. He just showed up. Again and again. And slowly. I let myself lean into him. About 2 weeks after we got back, he invited me over. Just a movie. Just us, he said casually. I didn't think twice. He answered the door with that same soft smile I was starting to memorize. Wasn't sure you'd come, he said. Wasn't sure I could stay away, I replied, before I could stop myself. He blinked, surprised. Then grinned, like I'd just handed him the world. Halfway through the movie, neither of us was really watching. We were sitting close, shoulders touching. The silence between us, comfortable and thick with meaning. Alex paused the movie. "Look at me," he said softly. "Can I kiss you?" I didn't hesitate. I leaned in first. The kiss wasn't rushed. Wasn't hungry like it had been in Egypt. It was steady, sweet. Like we both knew this wasn't something temporary anymore. This was something we were choosing. Later, I lay in his bed, his fingers brushing slowly up and down my arm. "I used to think guys like me weren't allowed to feel this way," he whispered. I turned my head toward him. "Why?" "Because people expect me to be a certain way," he said. "Loud, smooth, straight, unbothered. I play the role. Because it's easy. It's safe. But when I'm with you, I don't have to pretend." That broke something open in me. "I know what that's like," I said. "I've spent most of my life being invisible, because that felt safer than being seen." He moved closer, pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "Not anymore." And he was right. Our relationship didn't explode into the spotlight. It unfolded quietly, like a sunrise. Gradual, warm, real. Our friends started noticing, of course. The way we always sat next to each other. The way Alex had stopped flirting with everyone in sight. The way I started smiling more. Some asked questions, some didn't. But we didn't owe anyone answers. Because the truth was simple. He had been the roommate I didn't want. And now, he was the person I couldn't imagine life without. Yes, he touched me while I was sleeping. And I let him. But it's what happened after, when I was fully awake, fully seen, that changed everything. And I know, this isn't the end, so subscribe for more.